Hey, Kelly. So we've talked about this before. There's been a lot of speculation about whether Gemini is really making a dent in ChatGPT's lead. So take a look at this chart we had made up based on data from SimilarWeb. And the answer really is, in the end, the slope here on the end. ChatGPT visits grew 50% in 2025. They peaked in October, down 11% since then. Gemini usage, meanwhile, started its upward trend in November, right around the time Gemini 3 was released. In November and December, percentage gains for Gemini was nearly 30% versus OpenAI's traffic, which decreased about 6%. So, guys, the real question now is whether this trend can be sustained. Part of it is the law of large numbers. ChatGPT just has such a huge base. It makes its growth look milder. Gemini's more than fivefold gain last year. That comes off of a small base. The real signal in this chart is not that OpenAI is losing, but that Google may finally be converting distribution into usage. And so if that trend holds, the next battle is retention, which, Kelly, we've talked about plenty.
But so in other words, there's no dispute that Gemini is gaining ground on ChatGPT?
According to this third-party data, no. Gemini is gaining ground, but I mean, ChatGPT, OpenAI, is still the undisputed leader. It's just so much far ahead.
Now, Deirdre, we're showing the chart right now that shows the kind of the use case that you're talking about right now. And we can see just how big it is that this ChatGPT versus Gemini, but the ramp up that you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen for Gemini. If you look at it in that way, what exactly then is going to power either the convergence of those lines from the Gemini side and the ChatGPT side, or a potential divergence again where the leader in ChatGPT reasserts itself? What exactly does that, what needs to happen for us to get into ChatGPT more?
This is the constantly shifting trillion-dollar question, Dom, right? Who wins this? And then there's another really interesting chart that we've shown in the past, which is, you know, the OpenAI universe, which includes like an NVIDIA and Microsoft and Oracle versus the Google universe of stocks. And Google's just so much more vertically integrated. It has its own custom AI chips. These are very different investment propositions for and in the markets. So what powers it going forward? I mean, Sam Altman has spent a lot of the last few years talking about AGI, how that was so critical, that the company that gets to artificial general intelligence is the one that wins this whole thing. Over the last few months, you've seen sort of a shift, a bit more nuance here. Their code red talks about just making sure that ChatGPT usage is able to retain its users. That's very different, more focusing on product and enterprise. And that's where Google's strength really is. It talks about AGI as well, but its strength is in this massive distribution that it already has. Billions of users across Google Docs, across Gmail, across search, which now, you know, AI is being served on. So that's really key. How are they going to distribute this? Which one is stickier? And there's also been some past SimilarWeb data that shows that people are actually spending more time on Gemini. But that's really the big question. I mean, does OpenAI ultimately look like a Netscape or a Google? The irony of that. Or is Google able to just sort of keep increasing that catch up?
Nobody wants to go down that route.